please note that the chat function will be open at the bottom of your screen, and you can enter comments and questions. But we also have a question and answer box where you can enter specific question. We will try to reply to all of them within the limited time, but please be sure to leave your name, your organization, and your contact so that we can get back to you. And now I will give the word to our Master of Ceremony today, Jafet Abinshuti, is the Chief Resilience Officer for the City of Kigali. Thank you, Jafet, and welcome.
Thank you, Costanza, and greetings to everyone who's joined in today's event to officially launch the African Water Resilience Initiative in Kigali. My name is Jafet Abinshuti. I'm the Chief Resilience at the City of Kigali. So this initiative is a multi-city program which will be run over a period of 3 years in 6 African cities, Kigali included. It will aim to strengthen the city's capacity to manage the public water supply system more effectively, to improve water service provision, particularly for the urban poor, to minimize waste and make the most resources, while at the same time protecting ecosystems. It will also help prevent pollution and reduce water scarcity in order for Kigali to become a more thriving and resilient city. Let me briefly introduce the 2 speakers who will speak in the first session of this event. We have Prudence Rubingisa, who will offer opening remarks. Prudence is the mayor of the City of Kigali, and he has over 12 years experience as academician in the areas of finance, project management, and public procurement. He has also held various portfolios in the government of Rwanda. We have also Aklilu, who is the director of Thriving Resilient Cities, World Resources Institute Africa, and representative of WRI in Ethiopia. Aklilu has over 16 years of professional leadership and technical experience in the field of urban development and management, as well as in managing non-governmental programs.
Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you very much for this opportunity. As Jafet said, my name is Aklilu Fekweselase. I'm the Director for Thriving and Resilient Cities Africa, WRI Africa. So I will just provide some briefings about the program, the Urban Water Resilience Program. And so I have some slides. The next slide, please. Yes, so WRI is, of course, all of you know about WRI, but I would like to just share some views about what we do and who we are actually as WRI. WRI is a global environmental and development think tank that goes beyond research and create practical ways to protect the earth and improve people's lives. Actually, in terms of the area that we work, like WRI spans over 60 countries and several offices in almost scattered all over the globe. And actually, when it comes to cities, WRI is really functional and supporting about 353 cities all over the world that could benefit, that has been really benefiting lots of population, millions of people around the world. Next slide, please. When it comes to Africa, actually in Africa, we just finalized the 5-year strategic plan with 3 pillars. Like the 3 pillars are like a kind of integrated, not just a standalone, but that could really cross one another. The first one is at African level, we have a vital landscape. That is one pillar that covers water, food, energy, and other natural resource that could really, everything happens actually on space, and that this is about space, about vital landscape. And the second one is the pillar that I lead at the African level, that is thriving and resilient cities. Of course, urbanization is really high in Africa, and unless we manage it in a direct way, that would really, its adverse effect will be high. That's why realizing this, both the opportunities and the challenges of urbanization, WRI Africa has set this urban as one of its pillars. And the third one is institutional and economic transformation. This is a kind of creating enabling environment for Africa's transformation. Next slide. So in this strategy, actually in Africa, WRI covers several countries, but in this strategy, we could see that the three pillars can cover lots of countries and lots of projects: forest protection and forest value chain, community rights. And when it comes to like cities, mobility, transport, urban water resilience, and urban planning. And in terms of institutional and economic transformation, supporting nations with like on how to do long-term plans, long-term environment and climate sensitive plans. And again, it includes like landscape restoration and food and other economic and restoration activities. In the meantime, I would like to welcome Lord Mayor. I can see now. So next slide, please. So now from the bigger picture, that the three pillars that we support, WRI support all over Africa. Now I will deep dive into the water activities. When we say water, the project that we are going to launch today is about urban water resilience. And before that, it's WRI does not just go into cities. We have also interventions at national level, because water is not just bounded by cities boundary. And so now, for example, I can say a few words what we are doing in Ethiopia, for example, what WRI is doing, of course. So at national level, we are supporting the government on modeling water gap. So at the national level, at country level, and again, supporting the government in producing and also aligning the water dimension of the development towards the long-term development plan. And of course, which is really supported by the capacity building to the ministry that is really related with water, irrigation, and energy. Next slide. So from here, I will go to the project, the initiative that we are going to launch today is urban water resilience. And why cities? Now, WRI, why are we focusing on cities? Globally, we all know that cities are the major drivers of the economy. Of course, about 80% of global GDP is contributed by the cities. But on the same time, their adverse effect, for example, 75 plus CO2 emission comes from cities. So cities have both challenges and of course benefits and opportunities. When it comes to Africa, and the population of the urban population is really doubling in 2015, while the demand for water quadruples. But at the same time, it's not that's not the only challenge. And the slum, African city, most of the African cities are characterized by slum, and that requires really planning as well as lack of water and other basic services. And this is now the key challenge for the African leaders, is to provide safe, resilient, reliable, and affordable water. And at the same time, creating access to this, the entire population, in relation with, without affecting the climate and in a resilient way. Next slide. So the key vision of this initiative, today's urban water resilience, is really helping cities to move from water supplying cities towards water resilient cities. That's the core element of this project. Of course, as Javed said, this project is being implemented in 3 African countries, Ethiopia, Rwanda, and South Africa, and 2 cities per each country. So in terms of urban water resilience, I would like to mention some few issues. As you can see it clearly in the following paragraph, ensuring equitable, accessible, and reliable water is not just about supplying water. When it comes to resilience, it has something to do with land use and watershed management. So these are the components that really could do with urban water resilience. Next slide. This program has 3 actions, 3 plans. The first one is about assessing or researching unique geospatial analysis, doing understanding the entire water system where we are. And the second one is developing the urban water resilience action plan. And the final one is mobilizing collective actions, who does what, and the finance. Next slide. The first component of this project is about pathways for urban water resilience. How can we help cities to move from water supplying cities? That's obviously the characteristics of most of the African cities towards urban water sensitive cities. So WRI has already prepared framing paper, what is missing and how to move forward, and series of consultative workshops has to be done, and publication of reports actually will follow on March. Next. The second component is about cities' water resilience approach has to be built. This is about the entire understanding about the entire water system, both the spatial dimension of it and regulatory and policy dimension of the entire water system. So without understanding the entire governance, the spatial and regulatory aspect of the water resource, we could not provide or make cities water sensitive and water resilient. And then this resilience approach goes all the way from understanding the entire system towards developing action plans and preparing, helping the cities to develop bankable projects and agreeing on the ways forward. Next slide. So this component has almost 3 priorities. I can just indicate few because of the time, like prioritizing urban water resilience, spatial analysis. So especially what it looks like in the city. This is one. And number 2, so next slide, please. About partners. So WRI is not doing everything by its own. So WRI is partnering with Resilient Cities Network, the Resilient Shift, and Arup. These are the partners of WRI, of course, with the leadership of all the cities in making water resilient. So next slide. So the third component of this, the second area is about technical assistance and action area. So the action and technical assistance areas have been already identified. So enhancing spatial planning processes, and as a cross-cutting, we have also have this capacity building in helping the cities in implementing nature-based solutions and building the leadership capacity at local level. Next slide. The third component of this project is about creating enabling environment for scaling, because we could do an analysis, assess, indicate some areas or priorities, but then what is next? This is about creating enabling environment. So in this regard, we have knowledge partnership and again, technical support, then scaling partnership, partnerships. So these partnerships could help strengthen the capacity of cities to move forward and drive the cities toward this resilience. Next. So next, I will share some experiences from Addis Ababa, because we just finalized the visioning workshop in Addis Ababa, actually after assessing the situations. In Addis Ababa, really, this process helped WRI and the city administration to understand that water system is not really limited within the urban planning boundaries. It goes beyond, and it requires really thinking that goes beyond the administrative boundary of the city. And again, the operation of this water resilience and the water supply activities have been done in silos, because it goes across. Some of the ministries, the sectors, are not really checking one another. So this silo approach is really affecting the entire water resilience approach. Another area is that when we say water, it is not just about water, it is also about other sectors as well. Plus, it's about integrated planning and introducing innovative approach. Another area that we could see, we really learned, is about data in cities. In Addis Ababa city, for example, data are scattered everywhere in the sectors. So now there is a need about data-driven decisions and also integrated approach everywhere. Unless cities think beyond boundaries and think of integrated approach, making water resilience will be really hard. So I should not go beyond this. Thank you very much. Let me stop it here. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Kalilu, for this nice introduction. While the connection for the mayor is being established, I think we will move to the second session. In the second session, we are thrilled to have 5 special guests and panelists who are going to share perspectives as well as aspirations for our initiative, building on the mandates of the institutions they are representing. We have Juliet Kabera, who is the Director General of Rwanda Environment Management Authority, REMA. Juliet has extensive experience in the field of environment and technical representative for the Multilateral Fund on Montreal Protocol. Welcome, Juliet. We also have Engineer Marceline Kaitesi, who is a water expert currently working with the Ministry of Infrastructure and as a Water and Sanitation Division Manager. And Marceline has been working in the water sector for 10 years. Welcome, Marceline. We have Giselle Umuhumuza, who is the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of Water and Sanitation Corporation, WASAC. And Giselle is widely known to be a researcher in the field of biodiversity, and she was an assistant lecturer in applied biology in the former Kigali Institute of Science and Technology. Welcome, Giselle. We have also Dr. Ernest Sabimana, the Director General of Rwanda Utilities and Regulatory Agency, RULA. Ernest has served as the principal of IPRC Karongi under the Rwanda Polytechnic, and he was the Vice Mayor in charge of urbanization and infrastructure at the City of Kigali. Welcome, Dr. Ernest. And finally, we have Prime Ngabonziza, who is the Director General at the Rwanda Water Resources Board. Prior to this role, Prime was the Director General at Water and Forestry Authority in Rwanda, and he's a senior expert who acquired his professional expertise over 24 years in various socioeconomic fields, including integrated water management. Now, I will invite these panelists to just use 3 minutes each to reflect on 3 things. First, the challenges and opportunities to build urban water resilience in Kigali. And second, to share some works being done by your respective institutions to contribute to enhanced water resilience. And in the third place, we want you to kindly let us know what you think the Kigali Urban Water Resilience Initiative will add value to what you are doing as a public institutions, as well as your expectations towards the initiative. Maybe I will start with DG Rema.
Thank you, Japhet. Thank you for giving me the floor. Good afternoon, participants, dear panelists. I'm happy to share a few thoughts from the REMA perspective. And if I got this correct, Japhet, I'm discussing the challenges first, right?
Exactly.
Thank you. So I think, yes, there are opportunities, but there are also challenges that we have, and we have to acknowledge if we have to respond to them. First and foremost, I think we are challenged by a population that is growing. I think Kigali used to be a city with relatively few people, but is now growing at it has approximately grown by 13.7%. If we look at the data we have in the National Institute of Statistics, comparing the population in 2002 and 2018. So this population growth obviously overstretches the water supply that we have and the water resources that we have. So I'm sure Giselle will talk about this more eloquently than I do, but if we have this kind of stretch caused by the increase in population, that means we also need to make sure that the infrastructure that we have for this water supply, or even to the resource level, also matches the needs of the population. So this is not always at the same level of response. So this is definitely a challenge to us in Kigali. And then we also have disasters. A number of disasters are being felt nowadays. Before, we used to talk about climate change, and it used to look like a concept or something that is far off. But we now experience disasters, and these disasters also affect water infrastructure, and this comes in as a challenge to the water resilience in the city of Kigali. We also depend largely on water from natural systems like lakes, like rivers, which is not a problem in itself, but it becomes a problem if we do not protect the catchment of those water sources. So this is coming in as an issue from not having the right protection of the water catchments, which is definitely adding more stress from the water sources, which we mainly depend on. Furthermore, in Kigali, I don't think we have the right awareness of the population to know that this is how we use the water, to look at water as a resource that is valuable. I see us losing a lot of water. I'm now speaking to you from Rubavu, but when I look at the way we use water, I was in a hotel room right now, and you need to open your tap to run for maybe 10 minutes before you get the right temperature of the water that you need to use. This is not different from Kigali, it's still the same. So this is a challenge because when you look at the awareness of the people, you don't feel any remorse if you open a tap to run for 10 minutes and water is being wasted. Are we looking at it as a valuable resource? I think limited awareness is also still out there. I could go on, Japhet, but I think these are, to mention but a few challenges that we have in Kigali.
Thank you very much, Juliet. Let's move on with Marceline.
Yeah, thank you, Japhet. Thank you, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. It's a pleasure for me to be here, and I want to share some challenges that we are facing, and I'll be very specific in the. I will just mention the challenges in the water supply. Of course, as from the Ministry of Infrastructure perspective, I will start by mentioning that the government of Rwanda has got targets to reach in the water and sanitation sector. So we are planning to reach universal access to basic water and sanitation services by 2024. And of course, again, the government is also committed to achieving the global targets, the SDG targets in water and sanitation by 2030. So currently we are facing different challenges. I will mention that the government we are facing different challenges in water supply. One would be if I focus on the urban areas in cities, we are facing the issue of old water distribution network, specifically for the Kigali city and even in other secondary cities. So we have an issue of old water distribution networks, but also which goes with the issue that's mentioned by the challenge that's mentioned by the DG REMA of the rapid population growth, which causes the water demand that arises. So we have a challenge of water demand gaps due to the population growth, but also the old network, to be very specific in the water supply in the cities. So those
thank you. Maybe we will come to that later in the second question. Let's also hear from Giselle. And please, we have limited time. We try to be straight to the point before we move to the second question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I'll try not to repeat what my colleagues have said. They actually have shown the issue of actually satisfying the growing demand, and that is the biggest challenge. And this demand is not going to be the same throughout. And this means that not only we are being challenged in terms of the water quantity, but also even in the water quality. So, and with the water quality, I'll bring in here issues related to the high turbidity, which comes with different issues after that, and also settlements, because if we are to supply these people and the growing demand, where are these people settled is going to be very, very important. And this is where the urban planning and the integrated approaches coming very, very handy. And also the other thing is actually that the water quality calls for new technologies, new ways of working, and new ways of actually applying the know-how. And these requests new investment as well. And that cash flow is also something to be thinking about, because the cash flow, the investment need to go hand in hand with the affordability of such service. Thank you so much. This is about the challenges.
Thank you, Giselle. I will ask Dr. Ernest to follow. Please, Doctor, you are muted. Can you unmute?
Yes, thank you, Japhet. Thank you, everybody. Of course, in perspective of aggression, there are some challenges we're facing. Let's say, of course, our private operators are not yet fully professional. I think that's the challenge we are facing as a regulator. And then these challenges affecting, of course, the quality of the surface, let's say like quality of water in some areas. Of course, another challenge is linked to urbanization. We know the city of Kigali is growing quickly in terms of urbanization. Of course, Kigali, we have some rural part of the city, which the water quality is still a challenge. So, especially, of course, the, let's say, like water source protection. And then in this line, should also for water pollution. So these have been observed, of course, in some rural part of the city of Kigali. Of course, private operators in the rural area are still few. That's also a challenge. And then, as I said previously, this also is affecting the quality of service, which is affecting directly also the quality of water. So this is the challenge we are facing so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Is Prim around? I'm not seeing Prim. Okay, he's there. Prim, please, can you go straight to the point and let us know the challenge and opportunities you see for building resilience?
Thank you, moderator, and thank you, the City of Kigali, for inviting us in this important event. As you highlighted in your concept note, the City of Kigali, the topography of the City of Kigali and its rapid urbanization may make the population of the City of Kigali and the surrounding area, surrounding cities, very vulnerable to landslide. And I'd like to, as you said, as you mentioned in your report, 77.3% of the population living in those cities are living in unplanned settlement in Kigali. But this is even many things is being done to streamline infrastructure development in the city of Kigali. However, the city has also a history of unplanned development since its creation, which has not given proper attention to the water management. This applies mainly to housing and the road network development. In addition to this, the lack of planning of stormwater management in the city by both Kigali City Master Plan or local development plan. Here I am saying the plan have a good details on zoning, road network, but no proper design on stormwater management. And this is a challenge which should be corrected and be aligned with the trend of development of our city. Also, I can mention the issue of climate change, which is making our water management scenario less predictable, in particularly for highly urbanized watershed in City of Kigali. Urban rivers has changed a lot, which leads to localized and downstream flooding. For the opportunity, let me say a bit for the opportunity. Here, I'd like to remind that about 10% of Kigali is covered by wetland. This is a great opportunity for flood control and also building for water resilience in Kigali. Wetland play, as you know, an important role in water storage and the conveyance. There is also this topography of Kigali, even if it is challenging, also it is also providing benefit, opportunity to collect water and to convey water through gravity system. There is also Kigali, you know, it is crossed and bordered by a good number of water body. There's also an opportunity to respond to water demand in the city of Kigali. It is also an opportunity to the water body, which are serving as receivers of flow water in the city of Kigali. Moderator, this is in brief, according to the time allocated for the opportunity and the challenges. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I wish to thank all panelists. I'm afraid we are running out of time, but I will request all of you as key partners for this initiative to continue to partner with the City of Kigali to find shared solution while we move forward. Thank you so much. Now we are moving to the session 3. And as the City of Kigali, we are very lucky to have peer African cities from which we can learn. And today I wish to introduce Gareth Morgan, who is the Director of Resilience in the City of Cape Town, South Africa. Mr. Gareth has led the development of the first Cape Town resilience strategy and has held leadership position in the portfolio responses of the city to both the recent regional drought and the current COVID-19 pandemic. I will invite him to reflect on his city's day zero water crisis and also ask him to kindly share the lessons the city of Cape Town learned from this crisis. Over to you, Gareth.
Thank you very much, Jaffe. A pleasure to be with you today. Good afternoon to the Lord Mayor and to our special guests and partners who are supporting Kigali in the rollout of the CWRA in Kigali. It's a great pleasure to be speaking from Cape Town today. We were the first city in the world to use the city water resilience approach. We're proud that the first city in the world is an African city. And of course, as Jaffe referenced, we're a city that has emerged out of a significant water crisis, which we refer to as the day zero drought. I'm going to share my screen very briefly so that you can see a few components of it. So let me just quickly load it. So just, I think it's important that everyone knows a little bit about where we get our water from. So 95% of our water comes from 6 large dams. And because we're part of a broader network, our city in the bottom right there, Cape Town, the metropolitan area, shares the regional water supply with agricultural users, as well as a number of other small municipalities that are on our borders. 2015, we were struck by a 1 in 650-year drought. It was a very, very extreme event that we lived with for a number of years. And at certain points in that crisis, we came close to running out of water. We never actually did, but that's largely because of the portfolio of responses that we built to avoid the worst case scenario. Included in that was water conservation, which is around the pure saving of water. Demand management, which was mostly around getting people to use water more efficiently. And what is interesting is that our city was able to reduce its water consumption by 50% within 1 year of trying. So in the beginning of 2017, we were using 1.1 billion liters of water a day. By the time we avoided day zero, we were using slightly more than 500 million liters of water a day, a really remarkable achievement in order to save Cape Town. We also started a number of new augmentation schemes, and many of those are now. The legacy of the drought is we are doing significant groundwater development in terms of abstraction. We're in advanced planning for a significant size desalination plant, and we are currently demonstrating a water reuse plant of only 10 megaliters a day, but our intention in 2 years is to commission a 70 to 100 megaliter water reuse plant, which, if we commission it like that, will be the single biggest water reuse plant in the world. And of course, in our response to day zero, we had to do a lot of disaster planning as well, because we had to make plans for the worst case scenario of what would happen if we ran out of water. We luckily avoided that, and we are in a recovery stage. Our dams are very, very healthy at the moment. But in the interim, between the worst part of that disaster and now, we did the city water resilience approach, an incredible learning moment, because we were a city that was highly engaged with water at that time. Everyone was more water literate because of our disaster. And it was a great opportunity to work with stakeholders. So like any city, and I heard many of your own water-related stresses and shocks, Cape Town has lots of water-related shocks and stresses as well. And what the City Water Resilience Framework and approach did for us was to say to us and our stakeholders, it's not just about the drought. Drought was one shock, but there are lots of other shocks that are relevant in Cape Town, particularly flooding, of course. But I mean, the list on the screen now, you can see there are many others. But also the stresses are so important. You know, people experience water in different ways, and that's largely because of where they live in the city, whether they live in informality or formality. And when a shock hits, the greater amount of vulnerability, so for example, people who are unemployed or live in poverty experience those shocks in very different ways. The CWRA was a great mechanism for us to say, don't just focus on the most common shocks and stresses, think more broadly about water-related shocks and stresses. In June 2019, we engaged with 40 water stakeholders in our city, from academia, government, business, and civil society. We did 4 assessment workshops. We've done a lot of pre-work on quantitative measures. We did a big visioning workshop as well. And we produced the first ever city water resilience image and assessment anywhere in the world. You won't be able to see it on your slide in detail, but this is what you in Kigali are working towards over the next coming months, is a visual representation of where your relative strengths and vulnerabilities are. What we found in Cape Town was that our city is actually fairly water resilient across most of the measures. But what it allowed us to do was to put a spotlight on those areas that need the most work. And that includes empowered communities, healthy urban spaces, protected natural environment, and effective disaster response and recovery. We're a city with well over 100 years of engineering, thousands of kilometers of piping. We're an engineered city. And a mechanism like the City Water Resilience approach says, okay, you're good at this. That's great. Fine, keep on going. But now, in order to develop and build further resilience, focus on this, this, and this. That was a nice little image. You know, part of the City Water Resilience approach is also to be able to vision and think about your city in a different way. And our stakeholders were able to do that. We came up with lots of actions. And many of those are actually being tangibly employed now, used now. So we know that we have to now do more water sensitive design. We have to improve collaboration with our stakeholders, our customers. We lost a lot of trust during the drought. There's always a challenge with financing. Where's that money coming from? And also the we are not in alone is the fact is that the city government, we learned in the drought, must never try and do everything by itself. It must work with its partners, including ordinary citizens. And you'll see a couple of other actions there as well. Produced an amazing water resilience profile for Cape Town based on all of this work. It's on the internet. You guys will presumably have something similar at the conclusion of your process. We're very proud of our document. We regularly look at it. And the key point is how it has been useful. So while we were doing our CWRA, but slightly before we published the profile, which you saw on the previous slide, we were also developing our new Cape Town water strategy. And the two processes intersected beautifully. And we were able to use the insights from the CWRA to actually land all of this in our own council-approved strategy. And we have 5 commitments in Cape Town now. Safe access to water and sanitation for all, wise use by all water users, sufficient reliable water and diverse sources, shared benefits and managed risk. That's about how we work with our partners, and then a water-sensitive city by 2040. But what we've done is we've strategically said by 2030, we will be a water resilient city, and by 2040, we will be a water sensitive city. And we are now rolling this out. We have a multi-billion rand investment into doing this from multiple funding sources, including large loans from international funding institutions. My last slide, Jaffe, is how are we practically using this on a regular basis. So I'm an assurance provider to the water department. I use the water resilience profile that you saw previously to regularly hold up the mirror to the department and say, you're doing this, but let us just recheck. Are we covering all the bases? Are we doing it as well? Have we considered all of our stakeholders? And to the credit of our water department, they've accepted this really, really well. So I'm not in the water department, but they invite me into all of their spaces where I get to use this to say, water resilience is not just engineering. There's a lot of other things. Maybe we should be considering this, this, and this. And of course, it's a great engagement tool. We use the city water resilience approach to talk to our stakeholders, to co-design and to co-think of solutions on an ongoing basis. So in all, we believe that the CWRA is very, very valuable. We think that you will find value in it, and we wish Kigali the best of luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gareth, for the great presentation. We are lucky you took this step before us, and we will learn a lot from you. Now, I will turn the screen and the microphone over to Aklilu to moderate the 4th session. Aklilu, over to you.
Thank you very much, and really it's this excellent section and to have this wonderful practical view from Cape Town City. So I will be moderating the 4th section that is about supporting structure and systemic change. And I have 2 senior officials and experts, deep experts here in the session. And let me introduce the 2 speakers here. The first one is Francois Tetero. Francois is the senior urban expert at the Global Green Growth Institute Rwanda program, supporting a project aiming to build flood and landslide resilience. He's also working as an external reviewer and senior advisor for the Kigali Urban Water Resilience Initiative. Mr. Francois has held various positions in the water sector in Rwanda, including heading the Water Resource Management Department at Rwanda Water and Forest Authority. Welcome, Mr. Francois. And my second speaker is Franny Luther. Dr. Luther is senior partner at Southbridge Group and CEO of Southbridge Investment. She has long-standing global experiences leading and transforming organizations in the private, public, and NGO sphere. She was vice chair of the board before becoming first chief operating officer and leading the asset management business at TDP Group. Welcome, Dr. Luther. So I will raise some two key questions, and then I hope your discussion will be on addressing those two areas. The first one is, making water resilient. Making cities water resilient is not about just planning or integrated approach or assessment or a spatial dimension. It has also element of resources. In Africa, for example, it's not only the gap of investment in the water sector, but there is also the directing the funds to where this water is also something that is missing. And lots of studies show that the demand is huge in the cities basically, and the financial gap is also really huge. So like huge demand of water, but lack of finance. At the same time, positioning water, like funds to where this water is also some challenge. So let me raise some issues, and then I hope you will respond to those questions. I will give Franny the first, because she's raising some issues. So I'm asking, how should the city position itself to attract investment and support for its water resilience priorities, like including developing bankable projects and considering full cycle costs or blended funding approach? And at the same time, tell us about your recommendations on how best local government can aggregate or package their investment portfolios and approach donors. Franny, you can go first.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Aklilu, and it's a pleasure to be here, Lord Mayor and other participants from Kigali and from World Resources Institute and the experts we've seen. I think there are three issues I'd like to raise on how local governments can attack these issues in terms of finding the financial resources needed, and then what examples exist out there that the city of Kigali could benefit from. The first one, I think, is that cities have this advantage that they are managing what is referred to as social infrastructure. And that includes water and sanitation, waste collection, the land available for health, education, and so on. And so the cities have an advantage vis-a-vis the markets in packaging those social infrastructure solutions in a way that can attract investors of different kinds, from impact investors, commercial investors, and others that can partner in the public-private setup to deliver the results that are needed. The second is that a typical city mayor is dealing with three challenges related to water resilience. Either abundance, because there's too much of it with flooding and other challenges of that, or scarcity, because there's too little of it, either it's not clean or not available, or it is fragile and therefore not resilient, and therefore one has to raise the reliability and quality and safety of water. It turns out that the market for financing tackles these problems in different ways, and you can find solutions through insurance products for the too much water side, for technology and innovation companies for the too little or not safe side, and then social innovators who work with the public sector and private sector to tackle the resiliency questions. And then finally, another challenge is the connecting infrastructure that is so critical for cities to function, whether it's through the billing and payment systems that run on the IT infrastructure and other elements that allow a resilient water supply system to take place. And then finally, there is the ecosystem type solution, starting with water basins and delivering quality water. So very quickly, the financial solutions out there. One is the bond markets, and social bonds are very much in use, and there are a number of solutions that can be shared in the bond market space. Second, the public-private partnerships that rely on project finance solutions, including BOT and BOO type solutions that are very much in use. Then you have basin level water funds. The example recently in Kenya with the Tana River that allow you to work from the upstream to deliver solutions in the downstream for the water users in the cities. And then, of course, you have packaging portfolios and securitization of water supply, sanitation, and waste collection that could attract investors who are looking for portfolio yields. And that's a very interesting environment for micro investing and so on. And then finally, there is the driver through innovation in the circular economy. And here for Kigali, there is the advantage that you have now Kigali International Financial Center that is blending itself and building itself as a green investing space. And that allows the city to attract companies and stakeholders who are interested in green investing, who become the tax base to support those kind of solutions going forward. So in the interest of time, Chair, let me stop here, and I'll be happy to share with the city and other partners in more detail these solutions that I'm presenting today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Luther. And now I will go give a floor to Francois.
Thank you, Aklilu, for the floor, and many thanks for the City of Kigali to organize this event. I'll go straight to the question, and we'll talk on 3 points. Number one, I think the City of Kigali or any other city, the first thing required is to define what the resilience means, because for each city, the priorities and the issues are completely different. So the first step is to define what does it mean, what does it cost? And the very good thing is that today, I mean, we are launching this as exercise for the City of Kigali for the city to define what does it mean to have a water resilient city. So this will always be the first step, because the City of Kigali or any other city will always have multiple needs. And in any other city or whatever it is, the budget will not always be ready to address all the issues. So the issue of prioritization becomes a top priority. So that's why defining the needs will become the first step, which is the good thing being done today. And this is well linked to what previous speakers tackled on, being the Deputy CEO of WASAC Giselle, but also DG Rura, on some of the issues being water quality, turbidity, which affects the resilience of the city, and not necessarily that these issues actually have to be addressed in the city boundary, because like the issues being mentioned, they actually happening outside of the city boundary. So this needs to be already reflected in the city resilience plan for the city to know what can be done within the city, which within the jurisdiction of the city, but what's also required to be done even outside of the city through partnership with other partners, other local government institutions, or whoever other player around. So that's the number one. The second is having as many possible bankable projects. Of course, the challenge here is by nature water-related investment have a low bankability for various reasons, because the financial returns are always low. But still, it's equally important, at least having a number of those ready to be financed using whatever financing instrument when opportunity arises. The third thing I want to mention, which is linked to what my colleague, she mentioned, was to look at the possibility for private sector financing. So when you look at the current situation, most of the water-related investment being in water supply, sanitation, flood risk reduction, they are heavily dependent on public investment, which is logical considering the nature of the sector. But still, one of the key things is to maximize any possible room for a private sector contribution during the design phase. Because sometimes we take that general assumption that it's almost tricky or impossible, and we tend to ignore it completely. Yet the reality is that for any project, there is still some room, however small it could be, to having a window for private sector contribution. So I think also this can help in terms of leveraging resources, but also building ownership across various players to build water resilience, being for the City of Kigali, but also another city being in Rwanda, but also elsewhere. So and this is applicable not only for hard investment, but also for soft investment. So in brief, those are the three things I feel are very pertinent and very important to consider. Thank you, moderator.
Thank you so much, for the brief responses and really elaborated solution. Just one more question before, giving the floor to Japhet. This water resilience process requires the identification of priorities, all those stuffs. And the city should also make sure that these identified priorities are really incorporated into the city's investment plan and budgets. So how can we ensure that these investment plans reflect those priorities, water resilience priorities?
Thank you, moderator. Well, I think as linked to what I mentioned, once there is this kind of a resilience plan for each city, then the priorities required, of course, will be put together with other priorities, because the priorities of a city are not necessarily linked to water only. There are a lot of other priorities in the various socioeconomic sectors. But at least having well-structured, packaged, and costed priorities as far as water resilience is concerned, then it becomes easy to put at a balancing table on depending on the budget or other financial possibilities, how to always integrate those relevant to water resilience. And one can, in that sense, one could easily be able to measure the proportion of the budget going to water resilience vis-a-vis the overall budget going to other needs. But also, and most important, having an idea on what will cost for a specific city to be, let's say, fully water resilient over a defined time horizon. Because one of the, in defining the resilience requirement, timing is also very important. So I think it's all around the planning process. And it's very encouraging to see that this kind of process is starting today for the city of Kigali. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francois. This is really excellent feedback. I'm about to wrap it up because we are going short of time. So, the process of making, helping the cities to be water resilient requires all dimension and integrated approach that goes beyond the city's boundary. At the same time, cities should prioritize, as now discussed, all their activities that makes them really resilient, and that process has to be incorporated into the city's broader investment plan and budget, as well as the city should also prepare and package all the intervention areas and project proposals and develop fundable and backable projects and approach relevant donors. And the investment also should not also go on water, but also it also go beyond the city's boundary and focus on nature-based solutions. So with this, I will stop it here and hand over to Japhet. Thank you very much, the speakers. Thank you, Francois. Thank you, Freni. Thank you very much. Back to you, Japhet.
Thank you very much, Aklilu. That was a very great session. And looking into all these sessions, people have emphasized integrated planning and bringing on board all stakeholders for shared solutions. So I hope that every partner and participants who was able to join will bring his support to advance this work. So I will now invite the Lord Mayor for his message of today and also for closing remarks. Please, Lord Mayor.
Thank you so much, moderator. Once again, I apologize for
having lost my connection. Ladies and gentlemen, I first of all want to thank you for having joined us in this journey. We value very much the lives of our people in the city of Kigali. And as I said, if you happen to got it when I was talking my introductory remarks before I lost the connection, that we have a very, very ambitious master plan of the city that goes up to 2050, that highlights the growth of our population, but also emphasizing on a city water resilience map to be used along these initiatives that we are talking about all together. And of course, we can mindfully make sure that effective stewardship of our city's water resources relies on all cities partners coming together. We are bringing on board all stakeholders also, and the government institutions that are supporting us in this journey. Yeah, I thank so much the DGs that have contributed to a well comprehensive, framework in this context. We want again to thank the partners all who have contributed to this discussion. We have learned a lot. We keep learning and exchanging those kind of a peer learning of different cities that have been contributing, and the researchers that are here also. We are ready to keep collaborating and innovating and coming up with solutions that leading us to a safe city that also provides the minimum requirements as far as the management of water is concerned. Now, today's event, of course, will set different, it's going to set different stage for that process, and the city stakeholders are now going to further be developing water resilience work in collaboration with water resource initiatives and different partners that I've mentioned. So I wish, therefore, to really commend this work, and we are committed, all of us, to make sure that we materialize our dream with the different actions, bringing in investors, and also making affordable the water, as a source of life to our people in the city of Kigali. Thank you so much for having contributed to these discussions. Thank you.
Mayor, thank you so much to all participants. Really appreciate your time, and Lord Mayor, for your support. It's very kind of you to spare some of your time for this session. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to partnering with the city to do this work together.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you everyone who has joined. We hope to work together on this project in the future. Thank you so much.